Welcome to Blue Glasses Math. In this podcast, we will explore how our self-perception as math teachers and learners influences our approach to life. Whether you identify as a math enthusiast or not, this podcast is for you. Are you a teacher, a parent, a school administrator, or a student? Join me as we shift our perspective on what it means to be a math person. Let's take a look. Hello. Today's a solo episode, and I didn't even have a plan to come out and record today, but some things have come up in the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks that I have been noticing, and I'm fired up about it. I just want to talk about it, and I think that what I really want is to start a conversation. And so I'm asking you right now, you're listening to this, you're driving, you're doing the dishes, you're walking the dog, whatever you're doing, maybe you're watching on YouTube. First, I want to say thank you for even being here in the first place. I really appreciate you. I have, people reaching out, and it's just really fun to be building this community, and the people who are coming together to have conversations here. I'm so grateful. So that's where I want to start. All right. This is what's got me fired up. I'm just going to read a couple of statements, not exactly quoted, but statements that I've heard in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Well, we're giving them a popcorn party if they finish and they get a certain score. I gave my son money because he asked me for money to go to McDonald's after school with his friends. And then I found out that he's actually paying someone with the money that I gave him for McDonald's to complete his work on his digital learning platform. I will not name names of people or companies in this episode. But if you've been around education long enough, you know that there are digital platforms out there. Some are very nice and good, but I'm not going to throw anybody in particular under the bus because I don't really feel like that's right. But that one really hit me. Students are paying one another to do their digital learning platform because I told that story about my friend whose son, and he happens to be in 7th grade, and she actually called me and said, I need a tutor. What do I do? Right? Put me in touch with somebody. And because her response was, she was absolutely horrified that her son would take the money that she was giving him for what she thought was to have a good time with his friends after school and go have some freedom and flexibility and ride his bike and all the things. And then she finds out that he's actually paying someone to do the digital learning work for him, then take a picture of the score and send it to the person who he's paying. And I said, how much? How much is he paying them? You ready for this? He's in 7th grade. He's paying students anywhere from $5 to $25 per lesson so that he doesn't have to do this work. And there's a little subtext to the story that, I know the history of this child, and he has struggled with math since he was in the 3rd or 4th grade. So, think about that, right? So what is he trying to avoid, right? You can say, oh, he's lazy. No, this kid is not lazy. This is somebody I know personally. There's no way. He is avoiding the shame and blame of getting a low score. So he's paying somebody. Okay, so I continue. I told that story to a group of 7th grade teachers in a school district that I was visiting. And they were like, oh yeah, kids do that all the time. And I'm thinking, what? Okay, so students are paying one another. Teachers are bribing students with popcorn parties. And I know this is not news. This is not news to many of you. They're like, yeah, this has been going on, right? Okay, here's another one that hit me yesterday. I know the student knows how to do the math, but he only logged in for 1 minute and he got a 0%. I'm like, okay, so why are we having him log in if we know that he's already mastered the skill in some other way, some other assessment? I didn't get into the weeds with this teacher about how she knew that the student that she was referring to knew how to do the skill. But why is he logging on for 1 minute, buzzing through all the problems and getting a 0%? Even though he already knows how to do the skill. Okay, so about a week ago, I had a conversation with Dr. Nikki Newton. And a couple things came up in that conversation. If you have not listened to that episode, now is your time to bookmark it, to put it on your calendar to listen to, because a couple things came up in that conversation. Number one, curiosity is not on page 7. And it's not on number 3 of the digital learning platform either. I always watch humans and their behavior, and I see the behavior as a language, right? Their behavior, the emotions, right? It's telling us something, right? So, yeah, it's an age-old thing that middle school students try to cut corners, right? I mean, I myself, I would find all the ways to get around whatever the teacher was asking me to do, because that's the natural response of middle schoolers, right? We would just want to find ways around it, right? Sometimes we say, if only they would use their energy for good and not evil, right? But it's not evil. It's just that they're kids, right? They're kids and they're trying to find ways around it. But curiosity is not on page 7. And curiosity, our middle schoolers, if you let them loose, they are curious. I mean, they're innovative. I mean, think about the boy who's paying his friends instead of going to McDonald's, right? I mean, my friend was actually kind of happy that he wasn't actually eating the McDonald's. No, nothing against McDonald's, but that he's not eating fast food. But then she was like, but I'd almost rather have him eat French fries every day than be avoiding what she perceives, because the school district is providing this service, perceives to be a learning tool to help him improve his math skills. But I think the kids are telling us. That this isn't helping me learn. This isn't helping me learn because it's not tapping into my basic human needs and my basic human desires, right? Like, what do I want to do? I want to innovate. I want to be curious. I want to connect. Right? What's the number one problem that middle school teachers have? Well, there's lots of problems, but one of the things, I mean, I had taught middle school, is like getting the students to settle down so that you can get a word in edgewise, because they're social. They want to connect with one another. Some of them don't want to connect, right? But they're social beings. They're all confused. They've got all sorts of things going on inside their brain, and we can get into the brain science of that in another episode, because I honestly don't have notes on that right now. But the point that I'm trying to make in this very short episode is, what is the message we are sending to our students when we tell them through by our behavior, right? What are we communicating as educators through our behavior to them about what matters by handing them a digital learning platform? And I'm not saying that all digital learning platforms are evil. It's how are we using them? And how are we communicating to the students why that digital learning platform may be helpful to them? Because they're not getting it. Clearly they're not getting it, because they're finding ways to get around it. And if teachers can say to me in a 7th grade group of a team of teachers who work with probably upwards of 100 students, say, oh yeah, the kids do that all the time, like as if it's no big deal. I'm like, yeah, and this is 45 to 50 minutes of instructional time during the week at least that you're taking to have students be on a digital learning platform that they don't care about, that they're finding ways around it, that they're rushing through. Yeah. And I know I'm probably not making friends with some of the digital learning platforms, but I'm going to put this out as an open invitation. Like, let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation about how we give students maybe the opportunity to be on a digital learning platform, but make it meaningful. Another thing that came up in my conversation with Dr. Nikki Newton was that we're over-engineering learning. We're over-engineering it, because we're trying to find solutions and we're grasping for straws. And a district I was in yesterday, to be perfectly honest, the conversation kept going back to what the kids can't do, even though I was trying to direct it the other way. The deficit model. And one of the teachers once said to me, "What do you mean by deficit model?" So here's my interpretation of deficit model. When we look at a student and we say, okay, here's student, I'm just going to make up a fake name. Here's student Betty, all right? So Betty, I'm picking a really old-fashioned name. Betty is in math class, and we look at Betty, and the first thing that we traditionally have been doing with students is where are their deficiencies so we can go in and fix it. So that's deficiency. That's deficit mindset. Deficit mindset is also, these kids can't. They have no attention span. They're rude and obnoxious. They're like anything that you can say that's like negative about a student, and you've been in those rooms. And I know it's so frustrating to be a teacher right now, and people are probably like, yeah, do you? You're behind the microphone. No, I do, because I'm in classrooms every single day. I'm not in the reality of the teachers every single day of their reality. So I'm not pretending that teaching is not hard. Teaching is very hard. It's the hardest job. And it's the most important job. It's the most important job because it really just think about teacher. This is why I ask about your math story, because I'm always looking for what was the moment? What was the person? What was the feeling that happened that changed your perspective one way or the other? And it's always a human interaction. It's never, well, one day I was working on this computer program and it never is that. It's always like Mrs. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, or in geometry in high school, or sitting at the kitchen table with my dad. I had a conversation with the founder of Alex Romano, one of the founders of Tile Farm. Sorry, it took me a second. Tile Farm, and he talked about his father was a mathematician, right? We don't all have that luck, but his father was a mathematician, and his childhood, he remembers having puzzles and problems to solve around the kitchen table, and his dad always had a bucket of pattern blocks. I'm like, how powerful is that, right? But he did not remember the actual pattern blocks. What he remembered was the feeling that he got from being able to sit with his brothers and do all these puzzles. And now, years later, he has a National Science Foundation funded project because he was able to tap into his curiosity, not because his dad put him on a computer screen. So we're over-engineering it, I think. We're over-engineering fun, we're over-engineering learning, we're over-engineering it by thinking that something, some button, some machine is going to fix it for us. And I believe that is a big, fat lie. Machines are good for some things, but they are not good for fostering curiosity. They're not good for tapping into our creativity. They're just not. Not in the way that they're being used right now. So what's the solution? I don't have the answers. I don't have the answers. What do you think? If you're listening to this on YouTube, send me a message. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, go on Instagram right now and send me a message. Send me a DM. Send me, maybe that you're seeing this as an Instagram post or a LinkedIn post. Message me. Tell me. Help me understand why we are taking, let's do the math on this. There are about how many weeks in a school year? Okay, so let's do the math on this. We have 180 days of school divided by 5 days in a school week. So that's 36 weeks. 36 weeks, okay? In every week, teachers are typically told to spend between 35 and 45 minutes on these ed tech platforms. There's 36 weeks times 45 minutes a week. 36 times 45 equals 1,620 minutes in a school year. All right, so I'm not going to pretend that I have the answers. I'm not going to pretend that I have the answers because I don't, but this is just some observation that I have made in multiple school districts, in multiple demographics, with multiple, quote unquote, levels of kids. And what I'm noticing is that not only is this digital tech helping us to push off what we to find somebody else to salute, that's not the right word. We're looking for something to solve a problem that we perceive to be a problem, meaning deficit mindset. And then what that's doing, I believe, is it's shining even a brighter spotlight on the deficits. And so we're taking those deficits and then being like, okay, we need to do targeted instruction. We need to add more of this. We need to whatever. And I'm like, okay, what about, let's look at what they can do. What's showing in the green bar or the green squares, and say, okay, this student knows how to multiply 6 times 7. Great. They've shown absolute proficiency on it. Now, how can we use that fact to build other facts? I don't feel like those are the conversations that I'm hearing, but maybe they're happening in schools. And if they are, I love to hear about it. I'll have you on as a guest. Let's talk about it. Help us understand how your district or your school or your classroom or you are using digital technology, digital learning tools. Help us understand how you are using digital learning tools in your classroom to shine a light on what students can do so that we can build on what they can do to build on new knowledge. That's one. But here's another. I wonder, getting back to my point about the over-engineering math class, we're over-engineering, we're scaffolding, we're thinking this strategy is going to fix it. And when that strategy doesn't work by Wednesday, I'm seeing teachers say, well, this doesn't work. And I'll ask, well, how many times did you try it? And they're like, well, we did it during win period on Monday. And I'm like, and they didn't get it. And I'm like, okay, did you try on win period on Wednesday? No, we tried something new. I'm like, okay, if I went to the gym and I tried to do one plank on Monday, and on Tuesday I didn't see my 6-pack abs, on Wednesday I'm going to start like running a mile on the treadmill. I'm not exercising the same muscles. I'm still exercising muscles, but everything's sort of segmented. So consistency over time. When we bring in a new strategy, it's not going to work the first time. It's just not. Right? I mean, maybe sometimes it will, but we're looking for this like instant gratification. Curiosity is not on page 7, and we're over-engineering fun. We're over-engineering learning. We're over-engineering teaching even. So here's my takeaway. All right. So like, you're like, okay, Pam, stop prophetizing to us. All right, fine. Here, I got to go to a meeting. We're over-engineering fun. Start with the answer. So here's an example. How do we fix it? Start with the answer. I've been playing this game since my kids were little. Pick a number. The answer is 8. What did I do to get there? You can use this with kids this big to kids this big. It doesn't matter, right? It could be negative numbers for kids this big. It could be using blocks or like these guys, like these little cubes. I have 8 of them. How did I get there, right? They could do addition, subtraction, whatever. Middle grade kids could use fractions, right? A teacher yesterday said, we're working on perimeter. I'm like, great. Tell them that you have a rectangle that has a perimeter of 20 and you need their help figuring out what length and width, what the length and width are. What are the dimensions of that rectangle? So much richness out of that, more than like picking item B or choice B on a multiple choice or even like dragging and dropping. Yeah, that's my solution. It doesn't mean it's going to like be the magic bullet, but that's one little takeaway. Start with the answer. So think about what is something you're teaching right now, and it could even be a word problem, where you give students the answer first and see if they can back into what the question is asking. I'll say that again. Give them the answer and then have them back into what the question is. And when we do that, we tap into curiosity and we don't ask them to open to page 7 because that type of question is not on page 7. In most textbooks. It's a dry erase board, a marker, maybe some cubes if you need them. Or not you, but maybe your students need them. And that's it. Simple. And then ask the good questions. Ask the questions that push the learning forward, but you're not going to know what questions to ask if you don't first ask the students to show you some evidence. Have them show you evidence of, okay. Like yesterday when I was working with the students and I said the perimeter is 20. So you know what they did? These are 3rd graders, so they've just introduced a perimeter. I said the perimeter is 20. They said 20, 20, 20, 20, 80. So what did that tell me? They don't understand what perimeter means. So then we talked about like if an ant is crawling all the way around, he's going to go 20 steps. Right? If he's crawling all the way around this rectangle. That helped, right? So then they were like, okay, 10 and 10. But then I'm like, okay, but what about the other sides? 10 plus 10 is 20. Now you don't have other sides of the rectangle. You don't have the sides on the side, right? I was just using very informal language with them. Then they were able to back out of it, right? But I could have also given them tiles and had them like make the perimeter of, that would have been another scaffold. That's where I was going next, but they didn't need it. But I didn't know what they needed until I saw evidence of their thinking. And once I saw evidence of their thinking, then I could go in and start asking more questions. And yes, does this require a lot of thinking in the moment for the teacher? 100%. Does this require extra thought when you're planning? Anticipating what students are going to be doing? 100%. But I can promise you that the time spent planning that lesson will have a way bigger return on investment than trying to figure out which button your students are going to push to demonstrate whether they know or not, because most of the time they're just going to pay them to go to McDonald's, take their McDonald's money. All right, that's all I have for you today. Send me a message, comment, link below. Okay, bye. I'm Pam Brett. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Blue Glasses Math. please follow me wherever you get your podcasts and follow along on the conversation on Instagram. And remember, being a math person is all just a matter of perspective.